A new Huffington Post YouGov poll indicates that the majority of Americans are actually in favor of banning abortion after 20 weeks. So they surveyed about 1,000 people, and here's what they found. By a margin of 59% to 30%, respondents to the new poll said they would favor a federal ban or federal law banning abortion after 20 weeks of pregnancy. I mean, that's a significant number right there.
Well, you might be among them. Right?
I am. So let me be clear, and because of course there are caveats and things like that. So if you have a woman who's healthy, a fetus that's healthy, and after 20 weeks she decides, I'm in the mood to abort, then no, I'm against that. You've had plenty of time to make your decision. However, if there are developmental issues with the fetus, like let's say it's missing half its skull or something, or if the woman's life is in danger, then yes, I think that an abortion makes sense. In that case, you should definitely allow the woman to get an abortion.
So you would make a whole host of exceptions.
Yes.
Which gives plenty of room for people to make their own choices as long as they're not abusing the process.
Absolutely.
Right. And so now look, the reality is 24 weeks is set by the Supreme Court in Roe v. Wade, so these won't fly. And so now if we were writing legislation, you're saying you would vote for 20 weeks. I'm not sure what I'd vote for. I think the trimesters roughly make sense. Yeah. And I don't mind going to 24 weeks. I think the number of abortions between 20 and 24 weeks are minuscule, tiny, right? And usually for the exceptions that you were talking about.
Right.
So, but I think it's a fair argument, whether it's 20 or 24 weeks. And I think I'm not that bothered by, that poll saying 59 to 30, saying that it should be 20 weeks. I think it's fair to say. It's just not the law of the land at this point.
It's not.
And by the way, and to give you a sense of our different contexts and perspectives here, I actually think Roe versus Wade was wrong. Now, I think as legislation, it's fantastic, but I don't think that the Constitution talks about trimesters. So that's why I thought it was legislating too much to say, okay, after 24 weeks, you can't have an abortion, but before 24 weeks, it's unconstitutional to mess with your right to have an abortion.
Yeah.
That's really freaking specific interpretation of a fairly vague document.
I actually agree with you, and that's what makes me worry the most, because the reason why Republicans are trying to pass these ridiculous and clearly unconstitutional abortion laws is because they want it to go back to the Supreme Court. And I think that, the Supreme Court could make a case that Roe v. Wade didn't make much sense. Because how do you get into viability and all that stuff based on what the Constitution says? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It definitely was a stretch.
That's why I've always been against it, and I know people, get touchy about it. I understand why, because I don't want your privacy rights taken away.
Right.
I would legislate it, and I would immediately pass that same law, because I actually think it was a terrific piece of legislation, but of course, that's not what the Supreme Court's supposed to do. So I think on constitutional grounds, the conservatives actually have a point, but in terms of policy, I think what they are advocating would be a disaster.